So there was this trend on Twitter a few months ago where people would cut the Splatoon 3 main weapons roster in half. Now, I don't have Twitter. No, I'm not calling it X. So I just found out about this recently, but I've decided it's my turn to purge Splatoon weapons. Now, this was actually really easy. Just get rid of Custom Splattershot Jr., Neo Splash, Slosher Deco, New Squiffer, Enzyme 89, and all the other second kits. Okay, for real though, this was really difficult. Before I get into it, remember that I am not the best Splatoon player out there, or the smartest, not even close. My logic throughout this is kind of flawed. Yeah, I prioritize certain things, but it is massively opinionated. And I also might not know things about certain weapons. I didn't know until a few weeks ago that Sniper Riders store multiple charges, so don't get mad if I miss something about your favorite weapon. Now, without further ado, there are 65 unique main weapons in Splatoon 3, so I'll have to eliminate 32 of them. Yeah, it's uneven, but just shut up. The way I chose what to keep and what to remove is by splitting each weapon class in half. I'm going to start with the snipers here because they were probably the easiest to decide. Firstly, remove the scope weapons. They're just worse versions of the E-Leader and Spot Charger. They don't need to be here. Next, GooTuber. I really don't know anything about GooTuber, but from the little I do know, it's not great. There's nothing that's really special. Now, all the rest of these are fine, but the obvious choice for the final elimination is Bamboozler. No, this is not for my PTSD. It's a nice idea, but we need to trim the numbers down, and you can just use the front line. Next up, the Brellas. I know very little about Brellas, but this one is pretty easy too, because I don't know enough to keep some of these. Keep Splat Brella, keep Tenebrella, and remove the rest. Next, let's move to Rollers. This is basically Carbon v Splat Roller and Dynamo v Flingza. So I guess Big Split gets a free pass? Yay! Picking between Carbon and V-Roller was pretty hard. To me, either of these would serve the purpose as the basic roller, but I went with Carbon because it's a little more interesting. For Flingza and Dynamo, Flingza to me has always felt like a better made Dynamo roller. And also, I hate Dynamo roller. Now to the roller counterpart, the brushes. This one was quite a bit harder than the other ones I've talked about. All three brushes are similar, but serve their own purposes. There was no clear answer on which brush was the least important. So how did I pick? Well, to me, the ink brush and octobrush are way more iconic than the paintbrush. That was kind of my only reasoning, but, paintbrush is kind of the middle ground, so I guess it works. Another class of 3 weapons is the Stringers. This one was even harder. I knew I was going to keep Tri-Stringer because that's the basic Stringer, the iconic one, but both the others are unique in their own way. You could keep either of these and I'd completely understand. After a lot of debating, I settled on keeping Reflux because the Well String is kind of just too new and I don't know if people would really miss it. Next up, Sloshers. The main issue with the Sloshers is that all of these are pretty unique from each other. Sure, they all function similarly, but they all have their own mechanics. So the way I went about this one was removing weapons that were, I guess, the least interesting. Firstly, I'm removing Tri-Slosh. It feels like a mix of the V-Slosh and Dreadringer, and it's, kind of OP. Next is Sloshing Machine. Nothing against it, it's just not interesting enough considering the competition. And now, this was hard. The 4 Sloshers left all of their own case to stay, and I just could not single one out. So I just completely disbanded the logic. Because, the Bloblobber, maybe it's a little too different, I don't know. Its mechanic is so different from the rest that maybe it just doesn't fit with the others. That's the only way I can eliminate one, so blah blah it is. With the dualies, my process was more about eliminating the boring ones. Now I say that, but I don't know if I really followed that. Firstly, remove dualie squelchers. Jet squelchers already exist. Wait, that's a spoiler for later. I'm removing Glugas because I think Dowsers would work as a good substitute, and then Splat dualies because I guess they're just basic, I don't know. It's kind of a strange 3 to keep, but I guess it just ended up this way. Alright, it's blaster time. I'd be fine with removing all of these blasters because I f***ing hate blasters, but I won't do that. Alright, where should I start? Remove Clash Blaster. Alright, cool. A pretty obvious one is removing the Rapid Blaster Pro. Like, why do we need 2 of these? Why? And lastly, Range Blaster. Why? I hate it. Just use snipers, not this. Hello, this is Editor Tiger. Realizing that my hatred for blasters really showed through here, and I'm sorry. However, I have a little twist. I'm also eliminating Luna Blaster, and it's for a few reasons. The blasters just happen to have 7 variants, which is kind of a strange number, and I really think 3 blasters covers the blaster spectrum. I don't see the need for an extra one. So yeah, keeping 3 blasters and removing 4. Our second to last class is the Splatlings. I'm immediately removing Heavy Edit. It's the same case as the Rapid Blaster and Rapid Blaster Pro. We don't need both. Now the Mini Splatling and Nautilus are both pretty similar, at least in my opinion. I wanted to keep Mini because it's kind of your basic Splatling, but you could make the same case for Heavy, so I ended up keeping Nautilus. That leaves Hydra and Ballpoint. I believe the Hydra is more interesting than Ballpoint, and there are weapons that can replicate what the Ballpoint does. Alright, last but certainly not least, the shooters. Now, I'm starting with these 4 because to me these have always been kind of a subcategory. They just operate a little differently. So I'm keeping Jet Squelcher because I removed both Dilly Squelchers and Ballpoint. I'm not going to cut all 3 of these. And next I'm cutting this one, whichever one this is. What do these even do? It feels wrong to get rid of both though, so I'm keeping the other Nozzle Nose and removing Squeezer. With the 10 shooters remaining, we gotta look at the splatter shots. Why are there 4 of these? Sure, they're all a little different, but you can just call them different things. That aside, you gotta keep the OG splatter shot as well as the Junior. They're too iconic to remove, so goodbye Forge Splatter Shot and Splatter Shot Nova. We have a similar case with the 2 Gal weapons. I mean, in this scenario, one's gotta go. And you know, it was kind of difficult choosing delete 52 Gal. I'm creating world peace today. That leaves 4 more shooters, and just like the rollers, these can go into 1v1s. Aerospray versus Sploosh, and Splash versus NZAP. Honestly, both of these were pretty difficult to choose from. I think all 4 of them work, so even little things could just sway the decision. I'll start with Aerospray and Sploosh, 2 mainly painting weapons that can be very annoying, but I've chosen to cut Sploosh because I forget this weapon exists sometimes. Now, Splash vs NZAP was one of, if not the hardest decision I had to make. Both of these fit well into the game, and I enjoy using both of them. So what was the deciding factor here? Well, number 1, I've already gotten rid of the Sploosh, so it feels wrong to eliminate both of the O-Matic weapons. And 2, you can still use NZAP in Duck Hunt. So yeah, unfortunately I have to say goodbye to NZAP. Now, there's actually one class I haven't mentioned, the Splatanas. I originally was keeping Wiper and a Cavitator, but after I finished this, there was one problem. I wasn't exactly half yet. I still had to eliminate more weapons. But I had an idea. What if I just remove a class completely? Now that's where the Splatanas come in. And I'm sure many people are mad at me, and I completely understand. I have nothing against Splatanas. But in a case like this, they kind of feel like a strange middle ground between some of the other classes. They're kind of like blasters, but with a Splatling charge, you feel me? So I just... And now, there's actually room for one more weapon to come back. There were a few contenders, but I went with Bloblobber. It's one of the most unique weapons that I cut, and it just feels right to keep it in. So yeah, here's the final list. I'm not happy with some of the weapons I cut, but I don't really know what else I could do. So if I cut your main weapon, you can cry about it. That's all for this video. Again, this is me testing different styles of content, so please like the video if you liked it. It really does help. Join the Discord server. We play Gartic Phone there sometimes. You can talk about Splatoon. You can just chill with the other people in this community. There may or may not be a cult there. Don't worry about that. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video.